Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to TOCOIndia TOCO, an online lecture series on tobacco control in India. My name is Sanchita Roy Pradhan. I, along with my colleague Dr. Vandana, will be your host for today's session. The topic for today's webinar is evidence-based recommendation for preventing tobacco uptake among adolescents and young adults. And it is my honor to introduce our speaker, Dr. Muralidhar Kulkarni. And I'm sure that many of you may already be familiar with Sir's remarkable achievements and contribution in the field of tobacco control. It is my pleasure to introduce a distinguished scholar, dedicated researcher, and passionate educator, Dr. Muralidhar, who currently serves as a professor in the Department of Community Medicine at KMC Manipal and the member secretary of the Institutional Ethics Committee. He is also a faculty member at the prestigious MAHE FAIMER Institute. Dr. Muralidhar holds an impressive academic background with an MBBS, MD in community medicine and a postgraduate diploma in geriatric medicine. He is also a proud FAIMER Fellow, having completed the FAIMER IPE Fellowship in 2018 at the MAHE FAIMER Institute, where his exceptional interpersonal project earned him the award for the best interprofessional project. Dr. Muralidhar has contributed significantly to the field of public health research with funding support for his work from esteemed national and international organizations. He is an accomplished author with over 62 research papers published in reputed national and international journals. His leadership roles have included several serving of Joint Secretary of the Karnataka Association of Community Health from 2013 to 2019, and as the co-chair of the GACD Lung Diseases Program from 2017 to 2019. Dr. Muralidhar's key research interests lie in the epidemiology of non-communicable diseases, tobacco control, and vaccine trials. His contribution to these areas have not only advanced scientific knowledge, but also shaped impactful public health interventions. We are honored to have him with us today, and we eagerly look forward to hearing his insights. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Muralidhar.
Thank you, Ms. Pradhan. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Vandana, as well. Thank you for the kind introduction. And yeah.
Now I would like to request our respected director, Dr. Shalini Singh ma'am, to please give her opening remarks.
Yes, thank you, Sanchita and Vandana, and welcome to this TOCOIndia lecture series. Today's series of webinars is being delivered by Dr. Muralidhar Kulkarni. And as Sanchita has already mentioned about the illustrious speaker that we have today with us, we are very happy that you have taken up the cause of delivering this lecture on evidence-based recommendations for preventing tobacco uptake amongst adolescents and young adults. This is also the theme of the this year's World No Tobacco Day, that it was highlighted that it is very important that we actually have our efforts focused towards the youth, because the industry is day by day targeting the youth to take up this habit, and without them there would be all the tobacco users, as would have died. So it's their business strategy to have new tobacco users and every day. So possibly they monitor what are their different tactics which actually the users, the young users are attracted to. And so as a public health expert and as a public health enthusiast, we all have this role to prevent the youth from taking up the tobacco habit. And as you would, all of us would know that while smoking starts a little later in the teenage age, but the smokeless tobacco starts actually much earlier. So while most of the interventions focus on prevention of smoking, in the Southeast Asia region, we also have a role to play, that the smokeless tobacco uptake is also sort of controlled and under check. So we are looking forward to hearing from you. What are the strategies and what are the recommendations that you would that would help in reducing the uptake of tobacco amongst the adolescents and the young adults? So, Dr. Muralidhar, we would like to ask you to deliver your lecture and then maybe have a good round of interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It means a lot that you have given such insightful opening remarks. And yeah, researchers at ICMR and various organizations at Delhi have been doing wonderful job. And you have always inspired us to do some quality work. Of course, our work we have done in collaboration with various other experts from Bombay and Delhi as well. It was a good experience and opportunity for us to grow in this field of tobacco control. So thank you so much for that. I'll just share my slides. Please let me know if the slides are clear and my audio is fine. Is it
Yes,
okay?
sir.
yes.
Okay. So are the slides seen now? And
Yes, sir.
I'm just putting it on the slideshow mode.
Sure, sir.
Is it fine now? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. So once again, good afternoon to all of you. And at the outset, I would like to thank ICMR, National Institute for Cancer Prevention and Research, for giving me this opportunity to present on the topic evidence-based recommendations for preventing tobacco uptake among adolescents and youth. So I think initially when I was asked to take this session, I just discussed with the organizers as to what are all the topics which have been covered. I think 9 different topics have been covered, and I thought I should be deliberating on this particular topic. So what I'm going to do now is to take you through some of the important studies which we and our team at Kasturba Medical College, Manipal, have been doing for the last couple of years, and just giving you the key objectives, the quick brief methodology, what are the key findings, because I thought 4 to 5 studies what we have done I'm sharing. Uh, in that sense, I'll be going through quickly about the methodology part of it. Most of it remains the same. I'm not delving too much into the intricacies of the data collection process, but an overview of data collection process and how we did it and progressing towards the key findings for each of these studies. So coming on to Karnataka and Udupi, you know that tobacco use as per the GATS2 data is 22.8% in the year 2016-17, and Udupi district is one of the districts declared as COTPA high compliance district in this particular region, and we have very good tobacco control program running, good officials, and then we have had a very good collaboration with these government setup as well, and we could do the quality, the research what I am presenting today. So objectives of the study which we did in Udupi district a couple of years back was to measure the following among school-going adolescents aged 11 to 15 years. That includes ever smoking, incident smoking, susceptibility to smoking, and incident susceptibility, and ever SLT use. And also to study the factors that are associated with the above in this cohort of adolescents. The study design was a prospective cohort study. We did survey, cross-sectional survey in one for the first year. The subsequent year, when the students moved to the next grade, we did the next set of survey. After that, we had a series of qualitative studies which were done at the district level, state level, and the national level in association with other universities at the Hriday organization, which is based in Delhi, and other UK universities, which was funded by the Medical Research Council of UK. Now, the study setting included all the permitting schools in Udupi district. The participants for this study was 6 to 8 grade students in the year 1, and subsequently when they moved on to the next grade, that is 7th to 9th grade students in the year 2. The survey process started after obtaining all the regulatory approvals. The principal's consent was taken first. Then we use the parents' opt-out consent in the second visit, and assent from students was taken in the third visit, and the survey was conducted during the third visit. So this was a questionnaire we used. We used predominantly questions from the GAT survey and the UK smoking, drinking, and drug abuse survey, and the Maitri project, which led to the beginning of the National Tobacco Control Program in the country. So all these, we amalgamated the questionnaires from all these three important studies, the projects, and then we developed our own questionnaire. And the questions also included exposure to tobacco imagery in films, and asked students whether they had seen any of the 27 most popular films. We wanted to see whether how much movies have an influence on tobacco uptake in this population. Enrollment ID was used by the given by the education department so that we can track. All the questionnaires were anonymous, and for tracking, use the enrollment ID. In addition to these questions, we also asked whether they have any intention to use tobacco in future. This included questions on both smoking tobacco as well as smokeless tobacco. We asked questions on tobacco advertising, anti-tobacco education, and watching popular films in the previous year and that particular year. So this is the different school settings in the Udupi district. We have 5 educational blocks, namely Karkala, Brahmavara, Udupi, Kundapura, and Bandur. So these 5 blocks have schools around roughly 180 to 200 in each of these blocks. And those 180 to 200 schools comprise of both the public funded, that is the government schools. We have private organization-led schools, and some schools which are funded by the government but run by the private institutions. We have a combination of all these type of schools in the district, and all those schools which permitted us to carry out the study, and after taking opt-out consent, we included all these school children. So the data analysis, once the questionnaires were filled, we used the optical mark reader scanning was done, then data was extracted to Microsoft Excel, and the data was analyzed using Stata version 9.2 software. Now here, routine statistical analysis like frequencies, descriptive analysis, and wherever required, the logistic regression analysis was done to get the results. The key definitions which we employed in this particular study was ever smoking was defined as any reported smoking of any tobacco product currently or in the past. Incident smoking was ever smoking in year 2 among participants who reported that they had never smoked in year 1. Ever SLT use was any reported SLT use of any tobacco product currently or in the past. That was similar to ever smoking. Likewise, susceptibility was studied using these 4 common questions which are done in various national and international surveys. So do you think that you will be trying a cigarette soon? If one of your best friends were to offer a cigarette, would you smoke it? Do you think you will smoke a cigarette at any time during the next year? And do you think you will smoke any time once when you go to college? So if the question to this was, the response to these questions was either probably yes, probably not, or definitely not, then it is not an affirmative answer. There is a possibility that they may have an inclination to try tobacco products in future. So these were the common 4 questions which we used, and based on the way they responded, they were coded and analyzed. We also studied for incident susceptibility, which includes occurrence of susceptibility to smoking in non-smoking year 2 students who were non-susceptible never smokers in year 1. Those who said that they are not susceptible, but later on they mentioned that they were susceptible, that was considered incident susceptibility. Coming on to year 1 survey, we did this survey in almost nearly 900 schools in the district, wherein 46,706 students were approached, out of which 84% of them participated, agreed to participate, and the data was analyzed. So this, you can see the stacking numbers here. We have very huge number of students participating in this survey. Although it was done in one district, it was done in urban, rural, semi-urban, and as well as the tribal areas of the district. So we believe that this kind of a large representation of students would really help us in giving generalizable results for this particular region. So this immediately after the first survey, this was the data which we used and published this paper in BMJ Tobacco Control on exposure to tobacco imagery in popular films and the risk of ever smoking among children in southern India. So ever smoking was observed to be reported by 2.3% of the children. Again, I have not put up in the slides here. This was also substantiated by subsample salivary cotinine assessment, wherein we observed that it was nearly matching the responses and the prevalence of tobacco is what we have got in this population. Apart from the routine findings, many surveys have been done in the larger scale, also GYTS as well, wherein we see that male gender, anybody using tobacco products at home, friends using tobacco products, rebelliousness, low scholastic aptitude, all these things are risk factors for tobacco uptake or smoking or smokeless tobacco use. But then leaving that apart, one more interesting finding what we got was people who had children who had seen films containing tobacco imagery, they were not the risk was not increased in them for uptake of smoking tobacco products. So research till now in India as well as outside the country, wherever there was an exposure to tobacco imagery in films for regularly for children, in those children, we saw that there was an increase in tobacco uptake or smoking uptake for that matter. But here, this was the study wherein we got a difference, wherein that was not associated with it. Subsequently, on further analysis, we found out that exposure to tobacco imagery in films categorized in relation to their compliance with COTPA. It was observed that exposure to AV disclaimer, COTPA, the smoke-free film rules has three components. One is the AV disclaimer, then we have the short video messages, as well as the warning messages which comes on screen when a particular person is using any of the tobacco products. Right? Among them, we found that in this particular cross-sectional study, that AV disclaimer at the start of the film was associated with the significantly lower risk of smoking. So this provides great evidence to the current practices what we have in our country, and which is worthy to be noted and to be strictly implemented for best possible results for ourselves. Year 2, that was a study what we did from the cross-sectional survey and presented that. Coming on to the next year after we did this next survey, similarly, all the schools, like nearly 900 odd schools were visited in our district, and nearly 47,000 were the eligible children, and there were some incomplete proformas, and then we analyzed around 40,000 odd proformas in the year 2. So these two, year 1 around 33,000 and year 2 around 36,000. When we matched these things, we got matched responses for 33,676 participants. These many questionnaires were matched. In case any student there was a discrepancy in the response marking, such things were excluded from the analysis, and those who were complete data was taken, and then we got nearly 33,676 student surveys which were linked between year 1 and year 2. So this was the next publication what we had, that prospective cohort study of exposure to tobacco imagery in popular films and smoking uptake among children in southern India. So here also, as I told you earlier, likewise in other studies, these were the common risk factors which were observed. Apart from that, we also would like to bring to the notice here that further analysis of the data, we found out that the on-screen health warnings, the short messages what is there as per the tobacco-free film rules, that it has to come up on the screen whenever there is tobacco use in the film. So these were very effective, and if they were fully compliant with the Indian law, that was associated with significantly reduced odds of smoking uptake. Okay. What I mean by the on-screen health warning is depicted in the image on the right side here, you can see smoking causes cancer is a approved warning. It has to be in black font on the white color. Okay, this is what is meant as the compliant on-screen health warnings. Whenever these kind of messages were there, then such movies did not have an impact on the children. That means that these messages are having a good impact, so that adolescents and youth get a message that although it is shown in films, it is not a good thing. Similarly, this is one of the regional example of the regional film wherein it has to be in the regional language, in the black font on the white background. Right. So this was what we proved from this publication, and the incident smoking was 1.1%, and it was less common among those exposed to health warnings that complied fully with the COTPA requirements. Okay, so then in those circumstances, it had a good impact wherein there was no increase in incident smoking in those cases. Even the odds ratio is supportive. It is ranging 0.8 and ranging from 0.6 to 1.0. So that was about the incident smoking study, which again reiterates the fact that the tobacco-free film rules in our country are one of the good rules which are present, and that has to be implemented stringently across all the films in our country. And of course, this we advocated whenever we had an opportunity to present in other international conferences. We have highlighted the importance of this research and given evidence for other countries also to implement the tobacco-free film rules. So moving on to the next step. Next study, what we did from this these 2 years data was susceptibility aspect. So those who are not susceptible in year 1, those who became susceptible in the next year, that particular analysis was done. In this image, we see that around susceptible to smoking in year 2 was around 8.2%. Added together, we get around 11.8% of susceptibility from the year 1 data that is shown in the second box here in this. So that is about the susceptibility, and here we are deviating from the earlier findings. Okay, so this was the paper what we published recently in the Tobacco-Induced Disease Journal. As I told you, 11.8% is the susceptibility. Now, compared to other 2 studies wherein smoking uptake was not seen among children who are watching films with tobacco imagery, there was a notable increase in the likelihood of becoming susceptible to smoking as their exposure to smoking imagery in films increased. Right? So I'm just emphasizing here that the first 2 studies what I presented, I told there was no impact, but with respect to susceptibility, surprisingly, we have also seen that there was a notable increase in the likelihood of becoming susceptible to smoking. And this, as the tobacco imagery in films increased, right, we did not, we also saw that the intention to smoke is likely to increase. However, here when we come across the further analysis, what we think on this matter is that there is a necessity for strict enforcement. Although I told you it is helpful, but quite a bit of movies, they do not have the tobacco-free film rules to the as per the approved norms. The compliance to tobacco-free film rules is limited. That is one matter of concern. Although it is good, the children get a message if it is there, but unfortunately, when you have some films which do not follow the norms, so that is a matter of concern, because that may not have the actual impact on them, may not have full impact on them, which may give a inclination for those young minds to pick up tobacco use, smoking in future. So what we conclude from this study with respect to increased susceptibility is that there should be full implementation of the tobacco-free film rules, and exposure to smoking in films will continue to pose a risk for increasing smoking uptake among young people. So let us not be complacent here with respect to that we have the best possible tobacco-free film rules, and the tobacco imagery can go unabated in the film industry. So that is one matter of concern. What message I would like to give from this particular analysis is that there should be a check on the tobacco imagery in films. At the same time, we should also ensure that there is increased vigilance on that and emphasis on full implementation of these tobacco-free film rules. So coming on to the smokeless tobacco consumption among adolescents, the same survey what I explained to you, we also had questions on smoking, we had questions on smokeless tobacco and as well as susceptibility. On smokeless tobacco consumption among adolescents, we found that SLT use was nearly 2% among the school children in our district. The significant factors of multivariate analysis where I'm not going into details. All of you are tobacco control researchers and you'll be aware about these things. These are the common ones which are highlighted in many studies. And among SLT ever users, age at initiation was 10 or lower. I think Shalini madam initially mentioned about early age at initiation, which is noticed in our study also. And we need to be careful about this point. And use of SLT was found to be significantly less common among those who had not participated in anti-tobacco activities or were aware of health harms of tobacco or current tobacco control policies. Right. So this point again, through this study, we would like to emphasize the fact that many times when we go for training programs, the teachers tend to ask us, you are giving this idea about tobacco and other things to these children. They would, in fact, are we provoking them to use these products? Again, that notion of the teachers and some other stakeholders who question us has been negated by our study, wherein if the students are given appropriate knowledge, the good, all the harms of tobacco products, and they are made aware about the current tobacco control policies, why the government has imposed these particular policies and programs in place, if they are told in detail about it, then such children may not, will not go in for tobacco uptake. That is what we have found in this smokeless tobacco cross-sectional study, wherein it was considerably less among those children who had good awareness. If the awareness was limited, if it was poor or just average, then such children tend to use. So then after this particular study was published, then we gave it as evidence to all the stakeholders whom we are aware about, so that just highlighting the importance of anti-tobacco education in school settings. So that is very important and we have proven that it helps. But yes, let us not stop at giving half knowledge to children. Let us give complete information, complete awareness so that they don't touch tobacco at all in the future. Again, the study emphasized the need for educating adolescents, communities, teachers, and enforcement agencies, and also use social media. Nowadays, youngsters are very savvy with social media. We must use the social media and also restrict tobacco industry marketing on social media because that could be influence the uptake. So that was about smokeless tobacco use. We also have done some studies on compliance to tobacco-free education institution policy in urban areas, and this was not limited to Udupi district. We went to other districts of Karnataka as well, and we looked for the tobacco-free education institution guidelines, the compliance regarding this in various schools. And we nearly went to around 234 educational institutions, and we observed that there were some violations of COTPA, particularly regarding selling of tobacco within a 100-yard radius of schools. Again, this is a matter of concern for us. We have noticed that it is happening, and after this study, we also recommended strongly for the implementation of tobacco vendor licensing, which restricts the availability. And further studies also, I'll be reiterating on this fact, the importance of tobacco vendor licensing rule, which is definitely beneficial for containing or reducing the tobacco uptake. Again, one of the another important policies or guidelines what we have is the warning messages. I think some of you might be aware that we have 85% health warnings on tobacco packs, which is really good. And we stand in the top countries which have the stringent rules for this particular section of the COTPA. That's section 7, 8, and 9. So again, a study was done to explore the perceived effectiveness of one health warning currently displayed on plaques in India and 4 novel warnings on the different packs. So these were the images show different types of warning messages, because commonly we use cancer, and whenever we have done some qualitative studies, children tend to ask, cancer is something, a long-term complication of it. So students should be made aware of what are the other problems which tobacco can cause. As there is, based on that, we thought of having different warnings. So one is that tobacco leads to financial loss. Second one is tobacco causes bad breath, environmental damage, and also complications like diabetes, diabetic foot among patients as a chronic complication. So when this particular survey was done among college level students, we got quite interesting results. Again, here in this table, if you see, the best was tobacco causes cancer. The current guidelines are the best because that really makes people to think, you know. And however, the diabetes complications also were next in line with other complications like financial loss and environmental damage. This shows that people are concerned with what happens to them rather than what happens to environment or social aspects of it. However, it's also known that young people, they tend to get accustomed to one type of warning. If at all we think of changing these health warnings, these warnings like tobacco causes bad breath or tobacco causing environmental damage, diabetes and other complications also may serve equally good in supplementing the current tobacco pack warnings in our country. This is what we have found, and this study highlights the importance of other type of pack warnings as well. So novel warnings about financial and other things, okay, can help supplement the existing tobacco causes cancer warning, and it also highlights the non-health impacts which may be useful for us to give a different dimension to make young people think about these things. Subsequently, we recently also have conducted a systematic review wherein what works among adolescents within the school settings in Southeast Asia. So the inclusion criteria, these are the inclusion criteria what we use, mainly the Southeast Asian countries which are similar in economic development, and we thought we'll restrict to these countries as only, and we found that studies have centered around prevention of tobacco uptake. So whatever we have found in these particular studies, and most interventions provided centered around health promoting school framework, and interventions that go beyond typical classroom settings and employ multi-pronged approach were found to be useful in this. Subsequently, this was one of the qualitative studies what our team has done. As I told you, after the 2 levels of surveys what we have completed, we moved on to doing qualitative studies. We went to district level officials, we went to the state level officials, and also the national officials with the results what we had found out through the surveys in our district. So we got some very interesting findings. This is published in BMJ Open, and the title is Program and Policy Perspectives Towards a Tobacco-Free Generation in India, Findings from a Qualitative Study. So we had a good number of interviews, around 36 interviews, which were done among different, it could included the program officials, officials from education department, officials from police department, the state level as well as the national level, Ministry of Home, other civil society organizations. All these members were asked about the findings, about the opinion, what else can be done to contain tobacco. We got some very interesting findings. So one of the things was like regarding multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder engagement. So one of the officials said that there are multiple overlapping issues with each of the programs. There has to be a coordinated way and mechanism in which this could be implemented at the ground level, and there has to be consistency in the way in which it has to be implemented. Okay. So they also brought out that there are several programs, and if these programs, there is an amalgamation, they come together. Of course, in some places we are, wherever possible, we are collaborating, but that collaboration becomes a norm. It for any activity that will add strength to the existing programs. Besides, another official also commented regarding the regular impact evaluation. So we need to calibrate intervention and policies as per the development of industry and science, because industry keeps modifying. So we also need to modify accordingly. We regularly need to undertake impact evaluation studies to understand what are the gaps and what we have achieved till now. So other points which came out was like many interviews highlighted the need for new and achievable policies which focus on realizing a tobacco-free generation. So we took forward with the fall in tobacco use across the age groups as documented by GYTS and other surveys. We thought, why not ask people, officials, stakeholders about tobacco-free generation, wherein they considered that the magnitude of smokeless tobacco is high in our country. And then the focus, there should be a shift in the focus of policy making from only smoking to both smoking and smokeless tobacco. Of course, probably smoking has received much more attention than smokeless tobacco. So in Indian context, we need to keep smokeless tobacco in mind and emphasize more on that so that we are able to prevent the problems due to smokeless tobacco, as it is very high in our country. Another suggestion came was increasing the minimum legal age to buy tobacco from 18 to 21 years. So this, I think, many researchers and organizations have been trying, but this is one of the important points what we got. Vendor licensing was also identified as a key strategy to reduce accessibility. Again, in Karnataka and some other states, vendor licensing has been tabled in the assemblies, respective assemblies, and they have got a go ahead for implementing it in urban areas. Like urban areas are very densely populated, and if you are able to successfully implement vendor licensing, I think that would reduce the accessibility and in turn also strengthen the TOFI guidelines and again further reduce tobacco use in this adolescents and youth population in the country. Prohibit tobacco advertising, promotion, and sale on over-the-top platforms. So after this, there was a lot of advocacy done. I'm sure all of you are aware that we have rules for tobacco-free film rules also applied for the OTT platforms as well. But again, implementation and we need to monitor that aspect as well. Again, the PECA Act, the Prohibition of Electronic Cigarettes Act, was introduced in 2019. And that's a welcome move. But in spite of that, we see a lot of violations. Still see websites offering e-cigarettes through online portals, which needs to be curbed. So these are some of the points we got from the qualitative studies. The key point, what the takeaways from the 36 interviews, what we have done. This was one of the compendium, whatever studies we have done at Manipal with the help of our team. We published one chapter on compendium on good, replicable and innovative practices in tobacco control in India, wherein how we have been able to collaborate with the district, with the state, and how other centers can take examples from this particular progress what we were able to make. So, despite the fact that policy implementation occurs in various sectors, the departments involved in policy are always overburdened with multiple activities. So, in order that in the qualitative study also I explained to you that there is need for combined efforts. That is one of the important things we must do that. And efforts to collaboration between academia and government programs. So it's a win-win situation. We are in medical college collaborating with the government program officials will help both of them at the same time carrying out research, students getting exposure, and also advocacy for tobacco control. And the medical colleges also have the long-term goal of improving the health of the people in the society. So that also is achieved by collaborating with the government officials and government programs. So to summarize, some of the key policies what we have presented now, are some of the best practices what we have. I think we must be proud about what policies we have in place. And we have been able to reduce tobacco burden in the country as well, because serial surveys have demonstrated that. However, the caution is there is scope to further strengthen the existing policies, and regular impact assessment is very essential. Last but not the least, adapt to change in the industry and population needs. Right. So as e-cigarettes came into picture, we had to bring in the PECA Act. At the same time, we never know there are other policies and other type of products which may be coming in the market, which we need to be aware about. And of course, keep up the momentum and keep up the achievements what we have had till now in the tobacco control journey, so that we are able to move slowly towards tobacco free generation and in future for the tobacco end game as well. So these are some of the references. So these are the acknowledgements. Special thanks to ICMR, the Government of Karnataka, the Tobacco Control Capacity Program, our own university, and other funding agencies who have been very supportive to our work and funded our research ideas and research work regularly, so that we could do work without the research support from all these organizations. It would have been difficult for us to carry out this kind of large surveys and research work. So I really place on record my thanks to all these people and our team at Manipal who have been supporting our initiatives and joining hands with me in carrying out this all this research work. So I'd like to end my presentation here, that great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. So thank you one and all for this opportunity. I think I was clear in giving the message about various studies. Apologies if I had rushed through the studies with little information. If there are any questions, I'm really happy to take them and we can discuss it.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. And we are truly grateful for the invaluable knowledge and wisdom you have shared with us. Dear participants, we have now reached to the question and answer section of today's webinar. I encourage you to submit your questions to the chat box, and we'll try to address as many questions as possible within the time allotted.
Hello, sir.
Sir, we have got one question.
Yeah.
Whether we are in the process of implementing the restrictions of the social media use below 16 years, like Australian government.
Right now, we have not ventured into that. That could be the future steps for us.
I was having one more question.
Yeah, please.
So, actually, myself, Dr. Mohammad Gurje, I am working as assistant professor in the Department of Public Education at Private Medical College, Jalna, Maharashtra.
Okay.
And I am also the in charge of Tobacco Cessation Center. So
Okay.
we are running the center also. So last first week of this month, I got a child 14 years of age. Parent brought to us. So that is the guidelines regarding the NRC based on the thunderstorm nicotine dependence test. What are the current recommendations regarding that? Whether the doses and schedule should be set.
Usually at 14 years, they are not habitual users. What was the Fagastorm nicotine dependence score?
That means it is that is high, 7 or more than 7.
7 usually comes under medium range, if I'm not mistaken.
It was more than 7.
If it is in moderate range, then they may not require medication. Since how many years the child was using tobacco product?
2 to 3 years, as per the history, at least minimum 3 years.
What's the frequency per day?
Per day, actually, that means the parents were telling that initially he started with the using the tobacco products like that, and again in other addictive substances like Fevicol. There are different things available as per that.
Parents are using the tobacco products at home?
No, his father was addicted to the tobacco. That was the history.
First, father has to be counseled, because until he is the root cause.
Yes, sir.
Was the father counseled?
No, that is, we called them twice, but the father did not visit us. We also took the help of the psychiatry department.
Yes, correct. I was about to say that.
They also advise him for admission, but they were not ready for that also.
No, admission may not work in this case. It has to be treated on an outpatient basis. father has to be counseled and motivated to quit tobacco, because of which, seeing father, the son has started using it. Right? So looking at the scores, the son may not require medications, according to me. At the score of 7 or 8, we don't start NRT therapy for children in our center. Even at
Okay.
Medical College Manipal, we run a center. But then that is not recommended. Counseling, advice, and then regular follow up and motivation is the key at this juncture. Father would need NRT because I am sure he might be using since many years.
So, this and concentrate on the behavioral counseling and the regular follow-up.
Motivational interviewing and behavior counseling would help. For children, many of the cases what I have come across here in our center is they are usually experimental or occasional users, less than 18 years. We usually don't start them on NRT, but above 18, the guidelines are very clear. We can start using NRT in them. Depending on the degree of dependence, we can use.
So we have another question.
Yeah.
Like, how can adolescent-friendly health services contribute to preventing tobacco use among youth people in India?
Yeah, I think adolescent-friendly health services has to collaborate, and I see many places that collaboration is going on. Whenever adolescents come to health clinic, we call it in Karnataka as Sneha clinic. Sneha is something friendship, means friendship. Though whenever they come, they are educated about tobacco hazards, tobacco problems. So that is one aspect. Otherwise, we also conduct community-based outreach programs. There also impact of tobacco use. And what we have observed is whenever we talk about impact, it should be from early complications leading to addiction and then the late complication. Let us not jump to the statement that tobacco causes cancer without touching upon the early and intermediate complication. So these things can be incorporated in the adolescent-friendly health services.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Now we have another question, like how can mass media campaigns under the National Health Mission be tailored to address tobacco use in young adults?
Yeah. So short messages, slogans are quite seeking attention from the young minds. They don't want big lectures. Short video messages, thumping messages, punching lines would help in these cases. And in the subsequent studies, what we are doing, we developed a short video of hardly 3 minutes, wherein the whole message is conveyed. Because nowadays the generation is very fast. You make them sit in a room and talk to them for 1 hour, nobody will listen. They want everything in a very quick manner, in a concise manner. So mass media campaigns should focus wherever possible. In one of our studies also, students are told that social media should be used to create awareness, because now that is a trend wherein almost all of them are hooked onto social media. Through them, short messages, punching lines would be very useful as campaign mode. When we are thinking of campaign mode through the NHM, we can develop messages and we can give it to the people in different languages in all the states.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to ask the participants if they have any more questions, can please post in the chat box.
Hello, ma'am. Will the recordings will be available for us for this session?
Yes, the recordings will be available.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Sir, we are not getting any question now. So with this, thank you. We have come to an end of today's webinar, and we greatly appreciate Dr. Muralidhar's time and expertise in addressing the questions for our participants.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found this webinar informative and helpful. And I would like to thank our speaker today. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was a good interaction, and yeah, young minds should get motivated and contribute more towards tobacco control. So that is what we look forward, and hope all of us are successful in our mission. Okay, so that young adults or young people should not start using tobacco. If they start early, then the problem is more. It make a strong decision at a younger age, they will never use this, get habituated to these lethal products.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.